I grew up believing that love was something you earned. Not freely given. Not naturally felt. Earned. My mother made sure of that. When I was a child, my worth was measured in comparison to my sister, Ava. Ava, the golden girl, the favorite, the symbol of everything my mother wanted but never became. Where I was quiet, Ava sparkled. Where I liked books, she liked crowds. Where I hesitated, she acted. And where I craved love, she received it effortlessly. Our mother used to look at Ava like she was a prize she polished every morning. She looked at me like I was the smudge she tried to wipe off the family picture. Straighten your back, Maya. You look tired, Maya. Ava would have done better, Maya. Every sentence was a reminder. I existed in the shadow of a daughter she actually wanted. My father was gentle, but distant, the kind of man who didn't fight the storm, just tried to survive it. And in his silence, I learned to be silent too. What saved me were small things. A book in the sunlight, writing in secret journals, escaping to the backyard swing no one used anymore, and imagining a world where I didn't have to compete for breath. But real escape came when I turned 20. When I met him, Daniel. He wasn't supposed to become the center of my life. He wasn't supposed to notice a girl like me, quiet, unsure, carrying invisible bruises from years of being second best. Yet he did. He saw me. He listened when I spoke softly. He laughed when I tried to hide my awkwardness. He held my hand like I had value, like I deserved something as fragile and precious as tenderness. For the first time, I felt chosen. Not compared. Not measured. Chosen. And for a short while, the world made sense. Until my mother found out. She didn't like the idea of me having something Ava didn't. Especially not a boyfriend as charming, stable, and kind as Daniel. At first, it was small comments. He seems too mature for you. Are you sure you're what he wants? Ava would match his energy better. Then she started praising Ava in front of him, slipping her admiration in like poison inside sweet tea. Ava is so confident, don't you think? She takes on challenges. You'd love her drive. She's the stronger one. And I'd sit there beside Daniel, smiling tightly, pretending her words didn't carve into me. He would squeeze my hand under the table. Don't listen to her, he'd whisper. But mothers like mine don't whisper. They invade. One evening, she cornered me in the kitchen while Ava and Daniel chatted in the living room. You know he'd be happier with your sister, right? I froze. What? Mom. He needs someone strong. Someone who doesn't crumble at every little thing. Someone like Ava. I felt something inside me bend, like a branch that's been bent too many times. Why would you say that to me? She looked at me with calm cruelty, the kind masked under a polite smile. Because it's true. I walked away, refusing to let her see the tears. But even as I joined Daniel on the couch, her words continued echoing. He'd be happier with your sister. He'd be happier with your sister. And I didn't know it then. But that sentence was the beginning of everything that broke. The beginning of the day my mother would finally get what she wanted. The day my boyfriend would become my sister's fiancé. And the day I would lose everything. All because my mother believed I was never enough. Daniel always told me he loved the way I whispered instead of shouted. He said my softness was comforting in a loud world. He said I was gentle, thoughtful, steady. The kind of person who didn't need to perform to be worth something. But my mother saw softness as weakness, and weakness as unworthy. Her disapproval of us was not loud. It was surgical, precise, quiet, lethal. She used compliments as weapons, guilt as glue, and comparisons as currency. Ava didn't even have to try. She simply existed in the version of perfection my mother spent years sculpting. Ava's confidence. Ava's beauty. Ava's bright, extroverted personality. My mother paraded those qualities like trophies every time Daniel was around. Daniel, have you seen the project Ava won first place for? She has such leadership potential. She would be amazing in corporate environments. Meanwhile, I sat there, folding my hands under the table, shrinking inch by inch. Daniel tried, God knows he tried to redirect attention back to me. Maya actually helped her with that project. Her coding skills are insane. You should see her work. She just doesn't brag about herself. But my mother was a master at turning praise into invisibility. Yes, yes, she'd say lightly. Maya is sweet. But leadership runs in Ava's blood. Sweet. The word felt like an insult when she said it. Like being soft was something embarrassing. I didn't notice Daniel slowly absorbing these ideas, not at first. But little things began to shift. He started asking Ava for her opinions on things he used to ask me. He laughed more loudly at her jokes. He didn't shut down my mother's comparisons anymore. He let them float in the air like harmless smoke, not realizing it was poison. One afternoon, he said something that cracked me in a place I didn't realize was breakable. We were sitting on the porch swing at my parents' house. I was telling him about a project I was excited about, a new design I'd been quietly working on. He smiled. But then he said it. You know, Ava would probably present this idea really well. She's just so confident in front of people. I froze. Daniel wasn't someone who insulted. He didn't mean it cruelly. But the idea had been planted in him by my mother, watered over time, fed with subtle comments. And now he said it so casually. Ava would present it better. Ava was stronger. Ava was more confident. Ava would be better for him. I smiled weakly and nodded. Yes, she might. Inside, something was unraveling. Later that evening, I saw him helping Ava with something in the backyard, an event he didn't tell me about. My mother watched from the kitchen window, smiling with a satisfaction that twisted my stomach. When I walked in, she didn't even hide the smirk. I told you, she said softly, he responds better to strength. Mom. Stop, I muttered. But she wasn't done. Maybe you should let Ava handle things when Daniel visits. She's more compatible with him. I clenched the side of the counter to keep from shaking. Compatible? Like this was a job interview. And I was already losing. A week later, Daniel canceled a date we planned a month earlier. Your mom asked me to help with something at the house, he said. A heavy silence hung between us. With Ava? I whispered. He paused too long. Yeah. She needed help carrying some things. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was when my mother later said, I don't know why you're upset. If you were stronger, he wouldn't slip away so easily. Slip away. Her words lodged into my chest like cold metal. I didn't realize then that I was losing a battle I didn't even know I was fighting. A battle my mother had started long before I understood what betrayal looked like. And soon, she would win. Not because Ava wanted him, but because my mother convinced Daniel that my sister was better for him than I could ever be. I don't remember what made me drive to my parents' house that evening. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe it was fear. Maybe it was that terrible heaviness in my chest that whispered something was wrong. All I knew was this. I needed to see Daniel. I needed to feel like everything was still okay. But when I pulled into the driveway, I saw his car already there. A surprise visit. He hadn't told me. A strange tension wrapped around my ribs as I stepped inside. The house was too quiet. Too still. Then I heard them. Voices from the dining room. Not arguing. Not laughing. Talking. My mother's voice was soft, calculated. Daniel, you need stability. You need someone who matches your confidence. Daniel didn't respond right away. I walked closer, heart pounding hard enough to hurt. My mother continued. Maya is fragile. And fragility demands care. You'll spend your life holding her up. I froze in the hallway. The words hit me like ice water. Fragile. Demanding. Burden. Then she said the sentence that shattered everything I believed about love. Ava is the stronger one. She's better for you. My knees almost buckled. I waited, desperate, for Daniel to say something. To defend me. To push back. To tell her she was wrong. But instead, after a long, painful silence, he exhaled. I don't want to hurt Maya, but I don't know anymore. My stomach dropped. My world tilted. But it got worse. Much worse. My mother said gently, You two already have a natural connection. I can see it. A chair shifted. Footsteps. Ava's voice. I didn't want to come between you both, but Daniel and I have been talking about this for weeks.
Weeks.
My breath caught in my throat.
Weeks.
They knew. They talked. They shared something behind my back. While I was trying to hold on to scraps of reassurance, I stepped into the doorway before my legs could collapse completely. My voice came out hollow. What are you talking about? 3 faces turned toward me. My mother didn't look guilty. She looked victorious. Ava looked guilty, but steady, like she had convinced herself this was somehow justified. Daniel looked broken, like he had been caught in the middle of a storm he wasn't strong enough to escape. Maya, he began. Don't, I choked. I felt my heartbeat in my ears. My vision blurred. Everything inside me, every memory, every soft moment, every future I imagined, started disintegrating. You talked to her behind my back? My voice shook violently. Daniel stood slowly. It wasn't like that. I needed advice. From my sister? My words cracked like glass. Ava stepped forward, hands trembling. I never meant to hurt you. Then why did you let this happen? I snapped. She flinched like I slapped her. My mother watched quietly, satisfied. This isn't about hurting you, she said calmly. This is about what's best for everyone. For you, I whispered. It's what's best for you. Daniel's eyes glistened. Maya, your mom said you needed someone more gentle, someone more patient. She said Ava and I fit better.
Fit.
Better. It was like being erased from my own life. I couldn't breathe. Without thinking, I turned and ran. Out the door, down the steps, across the yard, until the world blurred into nothing. I sat in my car, shaking so violently my teeth clicked. The betrayal burned so deep it felt like my bones were cracking apart. My mother, my sister, and the man I loved, all choosing each other over me. I drove with tears blurring the road, gripping the steering wheel like it was the only thing holding me to the earth. I didn't remember getting home. I only remembered packing blindly. The clothes, books, my toothbrush. Throwing everything into a bag as my breath came in short, panicked bursts. I called no one. I left no note. I simply walked out, got into my car,
And drove.
away from the house, away from the pain, away from the ruins of a future I once wanted. And as I sped down the highway, sobbing into the night, one truth rang louder than everything else. They had decided I wasn't enough. So, I decided to disappear. I don't remember the exact moment I decided to leave the state. Maybe it was somewhere between the tears that wouldn't stop and the silence that felt too loud. Maybe it was the moment I realized there was nothing left for me in the place where I was born. All I knew was this. I needed to go somewhere my mother's voice couldn't reach me. Somewhere my sister's shadow wouldn't fall on me. Somewhere Daniel's name didn't echo through every memory. So I drove until the sky changed color and the world felt unfamiliar. Seattle. A city of rain, strangers, and possibilities. A place where no one knew my name, my heartbreak, or my history. I rented a small studio that smelled like paint and new beginnings. It wasn't much, just a soft bed, white walls, and a window overlooking a street lined with coffee shops. But it was mine. All mine. A space untouched by my mother's expectations, or my sister's brightness, or Daniel's confusion. For the first week, I slept, not peacefully, but out of exhaustion, grief, and emptiness. On the 8th day, I woke up and realized I couldn't keep breaking quietly. So I took the advice from every article I had frantically read online. If your world collapses, build a new one. That's how therapy entered my life. My therapist's name was Lila, a woman with calm eyes and a voice that didn't try to fix me, just guided me gently back into myself. I told her everything. My mother's comparisons, Ava's perfection, Daniel's slow drift, the betrayal in the dining room, the way I ran as if fire chased me. I cried until my voice broke. I shook until my body gave out. I confessed things I had buried so deep that saying them out loud felt like ripping my heart open. But piece by piece, week by week, Lila helped me gather the fragments. You were never weak, she told me one day. You were silenced. There's a difference. Her words stitched something inside me, something that had been torn for years. I began rebuilding myself the only way a broken woman can. Slowly, carefully, honestly. Coffee shop mornings. Long walks listening to the rain. Coding late into the night until logic felt safer than emotion. Breathing exercises. Journaling. The quiet courage of choosing myself every day. Then came the internship. A small tech startup with warm lighting, soft music, and a team that treated me like I existed. There, I met someone who would change my life without even trying. Michael. He wasn't dramatic like Daniel. He wasn't charming in a loud way. He was steady, a grounding presence in a world that had spun too fast for too long. We became friends first. Slowly. Naturally. He noticed things Daniel never saw. That I flinched when someone raised their voice. That I hesitated when praised. That I apologized for existing. He never asked for details. He never pushed. He just made space for me. Gentle, patient space. Sometimes we worked together at the office late at night. Sometimes we shared small jokes that eased the ache inside my chest. Sometimes he'd walk me home after dark, both of us pretending not to notice how close our hands came to touching. But I wasn't ready for love.
Not yet.
Healing is a long road, and I was still learning how to stand. Months passed.
Then a year.
Ava didn't call. Daniel disappeared from my life. My mother pretended I no longer existed. And strangely, the silence from them began to feel like peace. Seattle taught me something Boston never did. When people stop choosing you, you finally get the chance to choose yourself. And I was choosing myself every single day. Quietly, fiercely, beautifully. I didn't know then that the life I built, the calm, the success, the strength, would one day become the greatest shock my family ever faced. But that moment was coming. And when it arrived, I would finally see what my healing was worth. 2 years passed before I saw any of them again. 2 years of building a life out of ruins. 2 years of learning to breathe without fear. 2 years of becoming someone my mother never believed I could be. By then, I had a stable job, a clean apartment, a quiet confidence that grew from surviving what once broke me. And Michael, gentle, steady Michael, had quietly become the safest part of my world. But nothing prepares you for the moment your past knocks on your new life's door. It happened on a rainy Friday afternoon. I had just gotten home when I saw a familiar car parked outside my apartment building. For a moment, I couldn't move.
Couldn't breathe.
My mother stepped out first, then my sister. And behind them, Daniel. My pulse roared in my ears. Why were they here?
Why now?
Before I could retreat inside, they spotted me. Maya, my mother called, waving as if we were some happy, united family. I froze as the three of them approached. Ava looked nervous, smaller than I remembered. Daniel looked older, guilty. My mother, Linda, looked exactly the same, polished, calculating, pretending nothing had ever happened. We were just in the city, she lied effortlessly, and thought we'd visit you. Visit me. The daughter she replaced. The girl she pushed out of her own life. I crossed my arms. What do you want? Linda widened her eyes dramatically. Must you sound so hostile? We're family. A bitter laugh escaped me. You made sure I knew I wasn't. Ava swallowed, her voice soft. Maya, can we talk? All of us. I looked at her, really looked. For the first time in my life, Ava didn't look like the shining star, the golden child. She looked tired.
Guilty.
Human. We went inside. I kept the door open, just in case I needed to walk out. They sat awkwardly on my couch. Daniel couldn't even look at me. I stood. What do you want? I repeated. Ava spoke first, hands trembling. I'm sorry. Tears filled her eyes. I'm really, really sorry. My chest tightened. She had never apologized for anything in her life. She continued, voice cracking. I didn't realize how much Mom twisted things. I thought I was helping. She made it sound like you didn't want him. Like you weren't ready. Like Like I was weak? I finished. She flinched but nodded. I believed her. I trusted her. And I hurt you. My throat burned. Ava wiped her tears. I'm not with him anymore, she whispered. My mother stiffened. Ava. No, Mom, she snapped quietly. Stop controlling everything. Then she looked at me.
He left.
Months after you did. He said he couldn't be with someone who was chosen for him. Daniel finally raised his head. Maya, I owe you the biggest apology of my life. The words hung in the air. I was a coward, he said, voice breaking. I let your mother tell me who you were. I let her convince me you weren't strong enough, weren't enough, and I believed her. I'm so damn sorry. My mother stood abruptly. That's enough. We didn't come here to dig up old wounds. I turned on her. Yes, we did. She froze, startled by the strength in my voice. You came because you saw pictures of my new life online. Because I succeeded without you. Because you realized you don't control me anymore. Her jaw tightened. I am your mother. Watch your tone. No, I said firmly. You were a mother to Ava. You were a critic to me. A stunned silence followed. Ava's lips trembled. Mom, it's true. Daniel nodded weakly. Linda's face cracked, her confidence slipping. You ruined everything, I told her softly. You broke your own family, pushed me away, and destroyed my relationship. You told the man I loved that my sister was stronger. Better. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. And for the first time in my life, she looked small, powerless.
Exposed.
I took a slow breath. You came here expecting the broken girl you created. But she doesn't live here anymore. Ava cried silently. Daniel's eyes glistened with regret. My mother looked like the wind had been knocked out of her. In that moment, I realized I had finally become someone they couldn't control, compare, or manipulate. Someone I was proud of. And the truth was only half-spoken. The rest was coming. My mother stood in my living room like a queen stripped of her crown, stiff, trembling, unable to understand how the world no longer bent around her will. Ava cried softly on my couch. Daniel looked like a man who had spent years trying to outrun guilt and finally collapsed under it.
And me?
I stood there breathing steadily. Not the scared girl they left behind, but the woman I fought to become. The silence pressed down until I finally broke it. You all came here for something, I said softly. So say it. Ava wiped her tears. We came because we saw you built an amazing life. She looked around my apartment, calm, minimal, a reflection of the peace I earned. And we realized you did it without us. My mother's jaw tightened. A familiar denial rose in her throat. Maya didn't build this life, she snapped. She just got lucky. For the first time, Ava didn't shrink. No, Mom, she said, voice shaking but firm. She worked for this. She survived what you put her through. My mother's eyes widened, as if betrayal from Ava hurt more than anything I could ever say. She whispered, How dare you? Ava wiped her cheeks again. How dare you ruin us and call it love? The crack in my mother's expression deepened. Daniel exhaled shakily. I came because I needed to say it to your face, Maya. I chose wrong because I didn't choose for myself. My heart squeezed, but I didn't step toward him. I didn't offer comfort. He continued, voice trembling. I let someone else tell me who you were. I let fear make choices for me. And losing you was the consequence I deserved. I didn't respond. He looked down at his hands. I don't want you back, Maya. I don't expect forgiveness. I just needed you to know I see everything now. The ways you were treated. The way I failed you. I nodded once, not for him, but for myself. Ava looked at me through tears. I want a chance to know you again. Not as Mom's favorite and Mom's shadow, but as sisters. Real sisters. There was sincerity in her voice. Raw and painful and honest. I sat beside her, not touching, just close enough that she felt heard. Ava, I said softly, you weren't my enemy. You were raised to believe you had to shine so bright that there was no space for me. Her sobs deepened. I don't hate you, I whispered. I just needed distance to breathe. She nodded, covering her face. My mother watched the two of us. And for the first time, I saw something real in her eyes. Not anger, not control, but fear. Fear of losing the daughters she thought she owned. "So what now?" she asked quietly. I turned to her.
Now.
I repeated. "Now you face what you did." She flinched at the softness in my voice. Softness carries more truth than shouting ever can. "You didn't just push me away," I said. "You made me believe I was unworthy.
Weak.
Replaceable." Her eyes glistened, but she didn't move. "I won't punish you," I said. "I won't seek revenge." I took a slow breath. "I just won't let you near the parts of my life you tried to destroy." That was my boundary. My line. My freedom. Ava nodded in acceptance. Daniel looked devastated. My mother finally broke. A single tear slipped down her cheek. The first I had ever seen. "I never meant to lose you," she whispered. "You didn't lose me," I replied. "You just never tried to keep me." I stood, signaling the conversation was over. They rose slowly, 3 people forced to confront the damage they caused. At the door, Ava hesitated. "Will I ever see you again?" "Yes," I said softly, "when healing isn't one-sided." She hugged herself and nodded. Daniel whispered, "Goodbye, Maya." And my mother simply stared at me, realizing I no longer feared her. I closed the door gently. The apartment fell quiet. Michael walked in from the study, having heard everything. He put a warm hand on my shoulder, grounding me. "You okay?" he asked. I let out a breath that felt like releasing a lifetime of weight. "Yes," I said. For the first time, truly yes. I looked out the window at the soft Seattle rain. I left behind a life built on my mother's lies. I rebuilt myself from ashes. I stood in front of the people who broke me, and didn't shatter, because I finally understood. I was never weak. I was just never loved the right way. And now, I choose people who do.